So last week I made a video on the subreddit r/F1 discussions, and there are a few good discussions on there, and I made my own discussion thread. How do you rate Kimi on an all-time list? Not his absolute peak from 03 to 07, but on an all-time list, how he was throughout his entire career. Kimi Raikkonen's my favorite driver, by the way, that's why I made this Reddit thread. But what are my opinions on Kimi throughout his entire career? Well, he was mid after the Michelin tires. Sure, his only championship was on the Bridgestones, but he mainly won. We all know why he won that championship. Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton were at war with each other. Like, if we had the Hamilton-Kovalainen pairing, or maybe if it was Alonso-Kovalainen back in 2007, a McLaren drivers ending up on top of the World Drivers' Championship. Like, he did make a lot of mistakes in 2008. Sure, there are rumors of Ferrari sabotaging his setup, so maybe if that's the real reason, then fair enough. But still, he made way too many mistakes in 2008. In 2009, Felipe Massa was beating him up until his injury, and yeah, he was good in the second half, I guess, the win in Spa. Then Ferrari bought out his contract to bring in Fernando Alonso, went back in 2012. You know, people gas up 2012 a lot, but the Lotus was faster than the Ferrari at some tracks, and Fernando Alonso was still finished ahead of them in the championship. I think if you gave Alonso that year's his Lotus, you know, it could have been a different story. Maybe he wins the championship. But considering he hasn't driven an F1 for 2 seasons up until this point, I think it's a fair enough pass. In 2013, it's pretty hard to judge anybody other than Sebastian Vettel in 2013, so I don't really have much to comment on this. Then his final stint at Ferrari started off bad, then it became mid towards the end, and in his Alfa Romeo years, he did what he can with the machinery given to him, so he did alright. But if you put him on an all-time list, he's only top 20. Nothing higher than that, nothing lower than that. Maybe top 20, top 25. Is he the greatest one-time champion in history? Probably, and the comments mostly agree. Top 15, top 25. Like, if you put him in raw talent, probably top 10 all-time, but he really didn't care. It was, like he said, it was more like a hobby to him. And since then, the subreddit is pretty dry. But the F1 fan fallout on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram after the Canadian Grand Prix. Ooh, okay, we gotta talk about this. Now, if you didn't watch the Canadian Grand Prix, towards the end, Lando Norris ruined what was actually a pretty decent recovery drive from qualifying. He might have finished on the podium. His race pace was brilliant, but he ran into the back of Oscar Piastri. People say it was reminiscent of 2011 Canada between the McLaren drivers, but no, it's barely reminiscent of that. It only happened in the same straight, but Hamilton was alongside. Norris just ran into the back of him. And since it happened very late in the race, we ended under a safety car. And under the safety car, George Russell did a hard brake to warm the tires up, and Verstappen ended up going ahead of him for a split second. And George Russell went on the radio saying Max overtook him under the safety car to try and get him a penalty. And after that, the fan fallout on Twitter is beautiful. British bias. If it was Verstappen, he would have got a penalty. George Russell's a prick. George Russell is a whiny bitch. And to give my thoughts, no, this is not a penalty. I don't get why people are saying this is a penalty. The safety car was going very slow, so George wanted it to speed up a bit, and therefore the hard brake. And Verstappen got alongside him, and a lot of people were saying he was looking in his mirror to see if Verstappen was alongside. Well, yeah, of course he was. If Verstappen was directly behind him, he wouldn't have braked because it would have ended up in a crash. Is it that difficult to understand? And George went on the radio, you know, just to be a little bit cheeky, try to get Max a penalty, because you want to do that if you're a racing driver. You want to, jeopardize your rivals as much as possible. Verstappen telling his team on the radio to investigate Norris's yellow flags last year in Qatar. Isn't that pretty much the same thing? But Perez, Singapore 2022, he got a 5-second penalty for falling too far back behind the safety car. It's not the same incident. You have to be within 10 car lengths of the safety car. That's true. In this instance, George Russell was probably more than 10 car lengths behind. And in Singapore 2022, Perez got a 5-second penalty for the same thing. Or did he? Well, yes, he got a 5-second penalty for the same thing, but he dropped back a grand total of 3 times. He got a reprimand, pretty much a warning, for the first one and a 5-second penalty for the second one. George Russell does it once, and this was pretty much the warning. If he did a second time, then he probably would have gotten a penalty. Now, we don't really know Russell's true intention, but it was potentially penalty baiting. But at the same time, it didn't really affect anyone's race. Verstappen probably wasn't going to win with the 3 laps remaining. It's not really that big of a deal at the end of the day. It was just Russell penalty baiting. And Max Verstappen didn't even think it was a penalty. He just thought it was a miscommunication.
I think we were both trying to say to the safety car to speed up because he was only going 120 kilometers an hour. But I think maybe the safety car is doing that to give a bit more time to maybe get a race stop in. So then I think George was trying to speed up to the safety car. I was trying to do the same. And then once he tried to speed up the safety car, he then backed out, and it just caused a bit of a confusion.
And before people come for me in the comments, I like Verstappen more than I do Russell by a long shot. I hated Russell just a few years ago, but now I'm starting to like him a bit more. But no, I like Verstappen more than Russell. He's probably like my 5th favorite driver on the grid. I also own a Max Verstappen cap, so you can't possibly say I prefer Russell over Verstappen. I promise never to wear this ever again. This might be the most cursed thing I've ever worn. The Verstappen cap and a Mercedes shirt. I'm sorry for doing this, and let's get back to the video. So I saw someone comment this under a post by the race, and I did have to reply because, no, this is a dumb take. Why do you think Piastri will actually listen to a team order to let his direct championship rival by? Unless it was the FIA telling him to do so for illegally overtaking him, then sure. Like 2014 Hungary, Hamilton and Rosberg were on opposite strategies, and Mercedes told Lewis to let Nico by, but obviously he didn't do that. He was 14 points down in the championship, and he can potentially get some good points on Nico. And yeah, he did. He finished P3, Nico was P4, and he got some good points on the championship and won by a country mile anyways. So no, dumb take. The Constructors is a lock anyways, so come on. Another thing that happened over the Canadian Grand Prix weekend was F1 Academy. And in one of the races, I'm pretty sure it was race 1, before the safety car, Brazilian driver Rafaela Ferreira did this egregious rejoin. Now yes, is this one of the worst rejoins I've ever seen? Most definitely. But the comments, no, this is actually okay. We're still doing this? People, women, children, grandpas, please try to understand. They're not F1 drivers, and you're judging them like they're F1 drivers. They're F4 drivers. This is an F4 level series. They're driving F4 cars as well. The series is just called F1 Academy, but in reality, it's female F4. I'm not just gonna defend this series because I have a crush on one of the drivers. Can I have an interview with her, please? Williams? Or F1, whoever, ART, but that's not the point. I'm just stating what's there. This is an F4 level series. You should not expect everything to go so clean. Do you want to know the Italian F4 championship last year in Monza? I forgot which race it was, but it's 30 minutes of racing. It's a timed race. Do you want to know how many of that was spent under green flags and how many was spent under yellow flags? 10 minutes under green flags, 20 minutes of yellow flags. Every time the track went green, there would be a crash. And this is pretty much what we're expecting from F1 Academy. And it pretty much any feeder series at this point. Do you not watch F2 in the Monaco Grand Prix? Do you not know who Roy Nissany is? Look what he was doing back in 2022. Do you not watch Formula E? The people who are saying this stuff just watch F1, and they're also completely ignoring the aspect that these drivers are still inexperienced drivers. Terrible takes. I'm 6'2", by the way. No, I'm 5'8". I can't even lie. I'm 5'8". How tall are you, Leah? I'm curious. I feel like she's probably 6 feet. I made the mistake of scrolling on the Red Bull Racing subreddit because I've been seeing too many people calling Nico Rosberg an average driver. I might be done. No, I can't take it. I have to throw something. Oh, shoot, I broke the thing. Oh, no. Well, that's a good $3 down the drain, although it wasn't working. It wasn't working anyways. It's for my audio interface. I connect my guitar to my PC. Like my F1 model collection? Anyways, Well, thank you, people with that egregious opinion for breaking my stuff. And the reasoning for this is because recently Hamilton hasn't been performing in the car that isn't the You guys sound so. Ugh! I'm not gonna drop something again, but yes, Hamilton hasn't been performing in the fastest car as of late. But he's also not the same Lewis Hamilton we saw back from 2014 to 2016. And there were also a lot of people arguing back from like 2009 to 2012, when Hamilton didn't have the fastest car, that he was the fastest driver on the grid, maybe behind Fernando Alonso. An interview back in 2013, Alonso was hinting in an interview that him and Hamilton were the fastest drivers on the grid, above Sebastian Vettel.
In the lovely booklet we got here, there is a comparison of you between Lewis and Sebastian, and you said that Sebastian is not on the same level as Lewis is. Can you explain that?
In those years I saw Lewis winning races with not maybe the best car. I saw Lewis doing amazing performance when sometimes it was not a competitive car in the hands, and these things at the moment we didn't see with Sebastian. That's the only difference. They are two great champions. They are the two main rivals, and they are the two most talented drivers in the grid now.
People saying Max wouldn't have lost to a teammate like Rosberg. He's never had a teammate like Rosberg. Daniel beat him 2 out of 3 times. Just saying. And he had 8 DNFs the one season Max beat him. Just saying. Do F1 fans not know what progression and regression is? Do they think drivers remain the same throughout their entire career? Well, actually, that could pretty much be the case, because racing is the only sport where you can't physically tell that a driver is aging unless you have a really good eye for the onboards. Unlike basketball, football, you can clearly tell a difference when players age. So maybe this is also a fair discussion. Rosberg was a great driver, but prime Lewis Hamilton was just that much better in that era. And I guess to end it off, let's just go on something that's not so argumentative. Who's in Mount Rushmore in F1? For me, it's pretty definitive. Prost, Senna, Hamilton, Schumacher. I don't think I have to explain much. This is a pretty easy question to ask, but let's see what the comments say. Schumacher, Hamilton, Clark, Prost. I think Jim Clark's starting to creep into a lot of people's top 5s, top 4 now, but again, you have to understand, Mount Rushmore doesn't necessarily mean like the 4 best drivers in F1 history. You can also base it off of influence and all that good jazz, but I think this is not that bad of a list. I think it's a good list, actually. Hamilton, Schumacher, Prost, and Verstappen. Is Verstappen top 4? I don't think he's top 4. I think he needs to win a championship with another team. Like, when you talk about all the great drivers, as I mentioned, Hamilton, Prost, Senna, apart from Senna, they've all won with other teams. Senna definitely would have won with Williams if he stayed for like the 96, 97 seasons. I like how I said I don't want to pick an argumentative one, but this is actually pretty argumentative because, you know, this will be different for everybody because some people watch different eras, they witness different drivers, they prefer what they see in a different driver more than another one. That's why I see some people putting Verstappen in their top 4s, top 5, or, you know, some people just want to rank it on pure pace. Maybe they prefer better race distance drivers, so like your Hamiltons, your Prosts. I don't know, it's a really interesting discussion, but I'll stick with my guts. Because I think these 4 drivers I picked, they're the best at their strengths. So like Senna's is qualifying, Lewis Hamilton's is race pace, Michael Schumacher is, you know, just being outright the fastest driver on track, and Alan Prost is like a mixture of all of these. So yeah, Alan Prost is my greatest of all time. Don't come at me at the comments. Just, yeah, I might make a video on this one day. Prost case for the GOAT. Let me know if you want to see that. But anyways, that'll do it for today's video. This is technically a continuation of the Canadian Grand Prix video, but that weekend just had way too much stuff. I think 2 videos is deserved. But anyways, that'll do it for today's video. Come on, people. Ask more interesting questions in the subreddit. Not like your average basic questions. Ask a question like, who's the most attractive driver on the F1 grid? Or something like that.